Okay, so a very warm welcome to everyone here. Before I introduce our esteemed guests for today, I would like to first welcome all of you all to this interesting session on veganism for healthy living. A little bit about who we are as an organization. The Early Birds Club was created with a vision of refinement of humanity. Our club recommends, good things like waking up early, being purposeful in whatever you do, and spreading compassion, spreading unity, spreading kindness, and basically empowering ourselves to be purposeful citizens of the world. Now, a little bit about how the club was founded. It was founded by Mohanji. Mohanji believes firmly in the religion of humanity, and also he says that the path is ahimsa. And when we say ahimsa, it's ahimsa or in thoughts, in words, and then in deeds, in that order. So he believes in uniting the world and through acts of selflessness, and that's one of the aims that we have as a club as well. Now, coming to our esteemed guests for today. Let me start with Georges. Georges, I'm first a big fan. He's founded the Lebanese Vegan on social media. If you guys have not followed him, please do. It's one of the best, subtle as well as, frank and honest vegan activism that you can see. Georges is an MBA from the Lebanese American University. He is also the owner of Hayek Hospital. I mean, we just had an opportunity where he explained to us how he got into it, and it's been interesting. I'd probably ask him to speak about it more, once I give the floor to him. And, what's interesting about the hospital is also that it has a plant-based approach to healing and wellness. The vegan dietitian, exposes the benefits of plant-based diet rather than eating animal protein. And, they also include vegan meals, if I'm right, in their food for the patients, and they're also the first hospital which has a fully vegan menu in the cafeteria. It's very interesting. George, thank you so much for joining us today, and it's really a pleasure to have you in this panel. Our second guest is Palak Mehta. Palak founded the veganfirst.com in 2016. This is a cruelty-free and a vegan digital platform and print portal as well. It's the first of its kind in India. Online platform featuring trending recipes which are vegan, the latest news, also restaurants and product recommendations. I mean, there are so many interesting things that Palak offers in the portal. I check it out regularly. I recommend each and every one of you all to also log in and see what it is. Palak is also the representative for India at the World Vegan Organization. Welcome, Palak. Thank you so much for joining us here. It's an honor. Samira is our next guest. Samira founded Pure Jovial, which is her venture. She has a beautiful, very interesting journey, and it's something which I, hold a little, it's something which is very inspiring for me as well. She started, Pure Jovial. Journey started actually with her being diagnosed with stage 2 cancer in 2015. She felt there was another way to healing rather than invasive surgery, which was what was recommended to her. With a vegan diet and alternative therapies and wellness techniques, she healed in 3 months. I mean, that's amazing, Samira. I would really like to know more about what exactly you did. I'm really eager to listen, and I'm sure many of us here are also eager. So this gave rise to Pure Jovial. The vision of the company is raising frequencies and breaking boundaries. And I really love that. So thank you guys. Thank you for joining in. I'm really happy to have you all here. Just adding a couple of more people into the Zoom call, and then yes. So let's start with the first question. I'd like to know, how did you all get into veganism? I mean, let's start with Georges first. I'm eager to listen to each and every one of you all. George, how did you get into veganism? I mean, it's 10 years back. That's what I read in your bio, but how did you get into
Yes.
it?
First of all, I want to thank you personally for taking the initiative to do this meeting. I'm really honored to be with you guys, and I'm extremely happy to meet you all, meet compassionate people trying to change the world into a better place. So much respect to all of you. This is first. And then, if I want to give you a small brief about my journey into veganism, it's been like almost 10 years ago when a friend of mine who I used to consider as an annoying vegan activist, he shared a footage of a cow being slaughtered in an abattoir. And it popped up in my news feeds. First of all, I felt really offended and annoyed by this friend. I mean, why would he want to put such horrible footages and images into my news feed? And my whole day was completely like really bad. Then again, the same day I went back to my home. I have 4 dogs whom I love so very much. I started cuddling them and kissing them, and suddenly I felt the hypocrisy in my action. I looked at their eyes, I felt there was someone looking back at me. And actually, there's no justification to differentiate between any species of animals. I mean, a dog is a cat, is a dog, is a cow, is a chicken, is a sheep. So having a piece of steak at dinner and cuddling my dog at the same time, remembering what I saw earlier today, really hit me, and I really felt the hypocrisy in my actions. And this is when I started doing my own research on the matter and see why exactly do we eat meat. Is it a matter of we should eat meat to be healthy, or is it a matter of tradition, of culture, of taste? Well, after my research, I found out that we only eat meat because it gives us a special pleasure, and it's unjustified, like any other pleasures that steps into someone else's freedom. I mean, this is completely unacceptable. So it's not for health reasons. We really do not need to eat flesh nor secretions from other animals. And tradition, well, tradition, a lot of behaviors we used to have before, we stop them because it's not ethical. So tradition and culture doesn't always align with ethics and morals. So just for the sake of pleasure, I didn't find it any justification. I didn't find any justification to continue and slaughtering animals when I could have very easily have hummus, you know, and so many delicious plant-based meals, which I can very well eat and survive and thrive, and sleep at night without knowing that I stopped heart from beating just for me, for my heart to beat. So this was like a small summary about my journey into veganism. And then if you want to know more about how I got involved and started being an activist, once I gathered those information and I did this transition into a healthier and less cruel lifestyle that involves not killing animals and protecting our environment. So this is when I felt the urge to forward this information that I received to others. I felt it was like selfish for me to keep all the information to myself. I wanted to forward this information to everyone to see, and for everyone that at least resembles me in a way. I know my approach is not the only approach. I know that I can't reach everyone, but at least I'll be able to reach people that think like me, that behaves like me, and that shares a lot of my ethics and my morals. So this is when I took the decision to open up Lebanese Vegans. It was like a spontaneous action approach. Slowly but surely it grew, and my approach at the Lebanese Vegans is the simple approach. It's showing people exactly what those industries either the egg industry, meat industry, or all animal-related industries. As a matter of fact, they try to hide, and actually, this is their biggest strength, is to hide exactly what's happening and the process of the final product. I mean, when we just open the TV, the television, we are exposed to all kinds of commercials showing us the final product and some happy cow running on green fields, dancing and singing, whereas the reality is far stretched from what they're trying to show us. So at Lebanese Vegans, yeah, what I do is I expose their lies, their strengths, which is to hide. My strengths is to show. So I show people, because I truly believe that the majority of meat eaters are not necessarily violent people, are not necessarily people who would love to kill and see blood everywhere. I mean, I was one of them, and I never considered myself as a violent person. Whereas I used to contribute nothing but violence in a minimum of 3 times per day. So there was something really not matching between what I believe I am, and the person that when I look in the mirror I believe I am, and the actions that I do every day. So I expose the cruelty behind the final product, which is presented in a nice and innocent way. I show exactly how this piece of steak arrived in our dinner tables. And I let the audience and the people, the good people, to gather this information, let it sink in, let them do more research on that. And I'm more than sure and more than confident that those people will take the moral stand, the right position towards all this. Priya, you're muted. You just need to.
It's beautiful, and it's interesting. I mean, how you did mention about how initially, I think many of us who've taken up to veganism have first found vegan activism actually annoying and in your face, and then you end up once you see the whole truth for yourself, you end up being the exact same person you thought was annoying. So I am like that, and I've been through that cycle, and that's why I also understand. I mean, later on we could, Palak and I have discussed about how we should have compassion in the activism area also, and when she talks, she could probably speak about that. So lovely, thank you, George. Over to you, Palak. So how did you get into, veganism, and how did it all start for you?
Thank you, Preeti, for organizing this session. And so my guru Mohanji, he was promoting veganism, and it's very rare to find spiritual masters very transparent and talking about it. And he was almost like an activist. He's almost like an activist. EBC is also founded by him. So at that time, he used to be on social media online, and every day he would share the pictures of animals being slaughtered, of milking cows, of chickens, and he was not stopping. So when I started looking at it, and then he just intensified the sharing. And in the beginning, I just wanted to share it again. I was shocked. I was truly shocked. I would just look at it and cry, and I didn't know what to do. I was living on my own that time, so I would just cry for the whole night, and I was really in a state of shock because I'd already turned a vegetarian from being a non-vegetarian, but I did not know about the dairy and even about meat. I had turned into a vegetarian, but I still did not know how meat is processed. I had intuitively decided, hey, I don't want to eat meat anymore. But when I saw it, it's something like you can't unsee it after that. You change. So when I saw that, my first instinct was to share it. That, oh my God, I just saw something I want the whole world to know. And then I started feeling like a hypocrite because I was not able to do it myself. So the first step was, and then I kept getting more tempted to share it. And then the first step was that, okay, let's become a vegan first myself, take the time to do it, to really, and I had to disconnect for social media for some time, disconnect from everything, and really change my lifestyle and my habit. And that was the time when I saw that in India, at the time, it was very hard to go vegan. We had some soy milk, and that was about it. We didn't even have a lot of almond milk companies, or so my first instinct was to find out products and find out a community and find out like-minded people. And during my search, I realized, and luckily at that time, I just did not have the job. So I was in that empty space where I'm like sort of rediscovering myself after college, and it was good. So then I said, hey, why not start a community of like-minded people who are looking for products, services, more knowledge, on veganism in India, and who can find it easily. And that's how it began. So from then, it's, I think, you're aware of the journey, but for people who don't know, I think, for me personally, I feel that it's a cause for a higher purpose. So I feel that my guru's blessings and the animals' blessings themselves is actually moving this forward, because it's tough to commercialize veganism, and the intention was not at all to commercialize it, but the intention was to make it mainstream. So for me, now I also knew my strengths. I probably would not have. I mean, as an activist, I can go out there, I can speak, but I can present it in the content form way better. So although I love all activists, I work with them all the time. I really respect their work. But I thought, hey, there is nothing else at least in India, which is a solution space or a ready space. So I started working on that problem. And I think it's really grown from there a lot. So what I feel very blessed is that we often get a lot of mainstream folks, a lot of celebrities, a lot of mainstream brands come to us, and we get an opportunity to talk about the ethical aspects of veganism with them. And that is something which I felt very grateful for. And so it was purely dharma. It was like, you can't see something dying in front of you and not speak up, right? It's how will you sleep at night? So you just have to do it. That was the main reason. And I think that veganism last 2 years in India has grown a lot. It was mostly only in the last 2 years that we've seen the shift. In the first few years, it was even tough to get like-minded employees. It was honestly very tough. But now we've seen a big push, and now we even see that people. So the movement here in India is getting way more mainstream. So that's why I think our focus now more and more is to speak about the ethics, because now we are being contacted by a lot of people who are who are mixed. I mean, we can't dilute veganism, although it has a lot of benefits, and I think a lot of people want to ride the wave. There's alternate protein, which is really great. People are they're still using plant-based products, but they want to have fish on the side. Everything is great. But from moral ground, our mission and aim is now to make sure it's accessible to everybody, but reinforce the ethics, because that will stay with you till the end.
Agree.
With or without products, like there will not at any point in time then be an inner conflict about I made a right decision or a wrong decision, because you are in sync with your own conscience. So that is more of our purpose now. And yeah, I think it's a journey. I think it's just started now in India. The real work is just going to start.
Lovely. Okay, so from Lebanon to India, let's move to South Africa. So how has your journey been, Samira? I mean, how did you get into veganism?
So my journey actually started quite a while ago. It was I hope you can hear me. So started in 2015. Is it a bit better?
Yeah. Go on.
A bit better. So I started in 2015, and I was working a normal 9-to-5 job. And my mom, she said, "Why don't you go to the doctor?" And I, as an adult, at first time I said, "Okay, yes, my mom. I'll do it later when I can." So eventually, I went to the doctor, and I was diagnosed with 2-stage cervical cancer. So at that time, I was eating meat 25 years, and I didn't know anything about veganism, but I wasn't eating a very unhealthy diet. So the things that are given to us now, we think it's healthy, but for me, I go quite deep into nutrition and also creating awareness about what we think is actually healthy. So I wasn't eating a terribly, a very unhealthy diet. I was diagnosed with that 2-stage cervical cancer. So of course, in the beginning, it's quite a long story, but to keep it short, in the beginning, I it was a bit traumatic because I didn't know where to go, and I didn't know which direction to take. But there was something in me. My instinct said, you know what? My doctor gave me 3 options. It was a small, medium, and intense operation, and he suggested the most invasive operation for me. So I decided, my gut just said, there is another way. There has to be another way. I mean, why would I want a part of my body cut out, And from then on, I decided to research into health. I basically overnight, I became vegan. I cut out, I remember it was a Sunday, and it was do or die basically for me in my head. It was a do or die situation. And I became vegan overnight. I cut out all the GMOs and chemicals, and I literally revolutionized my entire lifestyle. I included yoga, and at that time I didn't meet my guru back then, so I just visualized a lot of white light in that area where I needed healing, and I had to maintain a real positive outlook on life. So positivity, love to oneself, healing, and just going about the natural way, following the laws of the universe, which is love and compassion. And within 3 months, I went to another doctor for a checkup, and it was clear. She she looked at the papers. I work with the doctors. I don't. There's some conventional doctors, but she looked at it and she said, "You had this," and I just smiled and I said, "Yes," and it was gone. It came back clear, and it was just quite a journey. I was still working, and I had to even face off my managers because my green tea looked like a cup of a bottle of urine, which was quite funny because he used to walk past my desk and he used to say, "Why are you drinking?" He was quite in a joking way. "Why are you drinking urine?" or a little bit more derogatory than that. But so I really had to stick to my guns and have faith in myself. And I researched exactly how plant-based foods can heal. So I went down to the raspberries and the ellagic acid and how each element in the food actually reacts with the cancer cells. So I had an Excel spreadsheet and my big guns. I had my small shotguns, which were the raspberries, and I had my big AK-47 just to clean out everything. And that was my turmeric. So amongst other things. So definitely a plant-based diet for me. And now we're basically focusing on frequency and making this available to people and creating the awareness that they don't have to suffer energetically and physically. So this is where my journey has started, Preeti.
So awesome. It's inspiring, Samira. It's lovely to actually hear the whole story. So kudos to you. So coming back to, each of you all come from very different background. From Lebanon, which is like heavily into meat eating. India has a lot more vegetarian options, to South Africa. So I would like to probably ask you all, what exactly are the challenges that you have each faced in your country when you are spreading awareness about veganism? So let me start with George. George, what are the typical challenges that you faced in Lebanon when you spread, when you do your work?
Of course. First of all, I would like to thank Samira for her testimony, quite touching, and I'm sure that you're going to inspire a lot of people that are suffering from cancer to adopt a healthier lifestyle in order to try to avoid being sick or having cancer or anything else. So thanks a lot for your intervention, Samira. Palak, I wanted to second on what you said. that veganism is predominantly about ethics and morals and about animals. Okay, and of course, once we do adopt a vegan lifestyle, of course, our health will improve and the environment will improve as well. This is the advantages of going vegan. Yeah, but mainly, yeah, veganism is about ethics, nothing but animals, and that's it. Now, going back to your question, Preti, the challenges that we have here in Lebanon, as you might know, Lebanon is a country where they love meat and they even eat meat raw. So it was quite challenging for us as Lebanese vegans and activists to introduce this new way of life into Lebanon. But thankfully, we do have like more than 70 to 80% of our naturally born food is by default vegan. So in this aspect, it wasn't really difficult to try to convince people that don't worry, if you ever stop eating flesh and secretions, there's other stuff that you can eat, so you will not die from starvation. This is one challenge that we had. The other challenge that we had was trying to debunk this idea that eating meat is manly and that we should eat meat and all the myth of protein and omega-3 and iron and all the deficiencies that people throw at the vegans. So we try in our activism in Lebanese vegans to provide sufficient facts and information about this aspect as well. And since I'm running the hospital, Hayek Hospital in Beirut, I'm into transitioning the hospital into a plant-based hospital, trying to tackle the source of our chronic and deadly diseases, not just by treating symptoms. I mean, so what we try to do is that we already have a vegan dietitian in the hospital, and what she does is that she conducts her visit every day to the patient, try to talk to them, try to educate them on why they are here in the first place in the hospital, why they are sick in the first place, and what caused the sickness. So it's not just treating the symptoms of what they have, but try to know the root cause, why they are sick in the first place. And as you all know, all major deadly and chronic diseases, they all come from eating flesh, secretions from animals and their products. I mean, eating hummus or eating lentil would never plug any artery. You know, the number one killer today is heart disease, and heart disease is caused nothing but by having clogged arteries, and clogged arteries is a result of food that your body didn't accept. Mainly food that is concentrated by cholesterol, saturated fat, and trans fatty acid. Keep in mind that cholesterol is only and exclusively found in animal products. Saturated fat is quite high compared to plant-based products. So what really clogs arteries, what really causes heart disease, what really causes people to die is nothing but animal protein. So we at the hospital, we have a moral obligation. And since I turned vegan, as a matter of fact, I felt that I should implement the plant-based method approach into the hospital and try to educate patients as well. So as I mentioned, our dietitian educate our patient, and every day she proposes a vegan meal alongside the animal meal. You know, we're into a transition period today. Hopefully soon I'll be able to remove and retrieve all animal products in the hospital. But today we're into the educational process, trying to educate people on why they shouldn't eat meat. And then later on, eventually, I'll achieve a point where I'll be able to retrieve all animal products. So those are mainly the challenges that we got. But then again, since our determination is quite strong, since the truth is on our side, since the mainstream media is no longer the only source of information that we have, We have another source of information. You guys are a source of information. Every one of us is a journalist that can document what's happening and everything. So the truth is out there for everyone to see. We have the moral responsibility to look into those information, to gather new information, and to have a moral position towards the new information that we just received.
It's really interesting that you said animal protein and plant protein and the difference between the two, because what's interesting is animal protein doesn't have any fiber. So that's the other thing, because when you're eating plant protein, you also eat fiber. So for that amount of protein, you need that much of fiber to actually digest.
I mentioned something, if I may, that animal protein is nothing but recycled plant protein. I mean, the cow that we eat in order for us to get protein, where does this cow gets her protein from? From grass. Same goes to chicken, pork, and all the animals that we eat. So animal protein, again, is nothing but recycled plant protein. Why go to the middleman when we can go directly to the source?
That's a very nice way of putting it. Why go to the middleman when you can go directly to the source? Very nice, very well put. So, so Palak, I mean, what are the challenges that you face in India when you are spreading veganism or awareness within your community, within friends, and even when you have to explain and hold the fort for the company that you found?
Right, right. So, unlike what most people believe, India is predominantly non-vegetarian. It's not actually predominantly vegetarian. As they say, as the GDP of the country grows, which ironically I shouldn't talk about during the time of Corona because it's not really growing. But they say that when a country is in this developing stage, then purchasing power increases, and it's just a trend which is noticed and statistically proven that people spend way more on meat. And that same thing has happened in India. Now, cheese in India did not exist. It was introduced as a foreign product. And right now, it is almost everywhere. So, India was predominantly vegetarian back in the day, but now 70% of India is actually non vegetarian, and only a small group of 30% is vegetarian. And that is point number one. The bigger for veganism, the bigger challenge I think is that people are receptive, but the cow is a sacred animal in India. It's worshipped. We call cow the mother. Most Indians, most Hindus don't actually eat cows because they don't want, like, they consider it as sacred. And because they call the cow a mother, they also consider the milk is sacred. So the bigger problem here is that it is not just it has a deeper root. So even if you say that this is not going the milk that you're having is full of oxytocin hormones, and the cow is being raped and everything else, and then that's where you're having the milk. And the main excuse is, all right, so let's find a way around it. Let's get a dairy within the house, or let's get a cow as a pet in a farm and grow the cow and then take milk from it, because ghee is supposed to be sacred and all of that. Now the problem I feel is that we can't then at that time explain the ethical or insist on the ethical aspect of veganism, which is that animals should not be commodified, right? So that becomes a challenge here in India. And or people say that, okay, I'll just have a cow, as we treat them as a family member and take milk from there, or we should take a desi cow or anything. But when in cities we look at it, we are all having Amul milk, or XYZ. So I think that that is a bigger social cultural myth to go around. That's one of the biggest challenges here in India. And apart from that, people are quite receptive. When you talk about ahimsa, when you talk about cruelty free, I think they're receptive. When you talk about health, they're receptive. And those who don't want to be right now, they're not at that point in time, in their life to explore vegan options. I think it's also that we need to have more restaurants, we need to have more activists. So I think in 2 years, definitely, this thing has grown a lot. The government is giving support in making plant-based mock meats, but and veganism has definitely grown. But again, I think the bigger problem is, and different countries have different problems, right? I recently heard we need to research more. I was interviewing somebody on biohacking, and he said that it's not that plant-based substitutes don't exist or they can't match the same vibration. We just haven't done enough research in that space. So lately, we just saw a news of a famous celebrity, Miley Cyrus. You know, she was vegan, and suddenly now she's not. And yeah, she actually quit veganism. So, but
Something like that.
yeah, but problem was, I think she said that she has brain fog or something like that, but because she's not getting proper nutrients, and that's why she started taking fish for omegas. Interestingly enough, algae, and we have enough, because after that we interviewed almost 20 doctors, 20 vegan doctors and nutritionists, and found out, and it's a very well-known fact, you can get enough omega-3 and omega-6 from plant-based sources, but that's not so widely spoken about. And if you present that right, then people are very receptive. So one is that there's just a dearth of information here, and we are trying our best right now to spread the information. A lot of activists are doing great job as well, but it's another problem is the dearth of options. You know, the supply chain in India. I remember during the Vegan India conference last year, I was speaking to the head dietitian of a very famous hospital here, and she said that almost 250 patients are lactose intolerant, but she has no option but to give them yogurt. Then we said, hey, why don't we get you a vendor for plant-based yogurt? Would you be receptive for that, towards that? And she said, yeah, I'm very open to explore. So I think that it's the awareness and products, they have to go hand in hand. But the larger problem is that they see cow as the mother. At the same time, they're so hypocritical. We are so hypocritical here in India. I'm sorry to say this, but we are the world's second largest producer of an exporter of beef. We want to still slaughter the cow, but we don't want to consume it, but we don't mind exporting it. That needs to be spoken.
I think that's another reason which prompts me to ask this question to the three of you all. So why do you think is compassion the need of the hour today? Why do you think compassion is necessary today, in this day, for us to even move forward and exist as a species? Any of you all would like to take that question up? Especially with the whole wake of the whole COVID coming, and why do you think you have to, why is compassion necessary in today's world? Yes, George.
Okay. First, I would like to give you like a small brief of my personal experience with activism throughout my years. I started my activism as we should like love animals in order for us to be vegan, and we should have some compassion in order for us to go vegan. Well, with the years I've been through activism, I realized that it has nothing to do with neither loving animals or compassion. It's nothing but an injustice issue like any other injustices in the world. Like racism, it's an injustice, same as child abuse, injustice, same as domestic violence. The problem, I believe, in all modesty, that the approach that the movement is going through is too lenient and too apologetic towards this massive injustice that we're going through as we speak. I think that if we reconsider our approach and our way of promoting veganism, maybe I say we can achieve a better result. If our message is clear that listen, you shouldn't like love animals, maybe you never had a dog or a cat in your home in order for you to relate. It's not a matter of relating or loving or whatever. It's simply a matter of justice, and simply a matter of whenever you see an injustice, do you recognize this injustice, or Are you blinded by this legalized and normalized violence that is going on as we speak? I mean, how can we expect peace on earth when the earth is nothing but a giant slaughterhouse? Doesn't make sense. I can't expect peace on earth, whether in Lebanon or elsewhere, to have peace when the act of slaughtering is okay. I mean, the act should be illegal regardless of the species, whether it's a human, animals, or whatever. So it came to me, to my knowledge, that veganism has nothing to do with compassion, nothing to do with loving. It's about justice. Are you against injustice or with injustice? Are you with violence or against violence? You can't pretend that you're a peaceful person while contributing to nothing but violence when you are exposed. I mean, if you didn't know better, it's fine. But today, with all the exposure everywhere, we all know how this innocent-looking meal arrived in our dinner table. And if we continue participating in this, there's a big problem. I mean, we are taking advantage of this normalized and legalized violence in order for our convenience. And this is completely unacceptable. I truly believe that if we ever unify our approach and we're clear in our message that this is just another injustice, I mean, we wouldn't have any apologetic approach towards any other injustices. Would you say to a rapist, it's okay, you stopped raping 7 days a week, you are raping twice a week, this is excellent, just keep on moving? No. We should be clear that slaughtering is wrong. Slicing a throat from here to there and having blood all over is wrong, and it can be wrong any day of the week. I mean, for those who claim that they're happy that they are reducing their intake of animal protein, this is wrong as well. I mean, maybe a lot of us went through a transition into carnist, vegetarian, then vegan. Fine, I understand that, and I know that the majority of people will not go from one day to another into veganism, but at least they should know that they shouldn't feel comfortable in the transition period. They shouldn't be comfortable in being vegetarian. They should know that the end game is veganism, and they should know that the sooner, the better.
Very interestingly put. I mean, raping 2 days a week versus, constant rape. Very hard hitting, but that's the truth. Palak and Samira, do you guys have anything to contribute? Have we become selfish as a race? Have we become insensitive? What do you think? Is compassion necessary in today's world? Or like George says, it's more about injustice. What's your opinion on this?
I really agree with George on this matter. People don't see this as an injustice. And, one of the challenges that we face is, of course, the awareness and the education behind, of course, your nutrition. And why compassion is important. So on my side, it's about raising frequency. So we focus a lot on the mental body. Everyone has, some people suffering with anxiety, depression, anger, fear, and the mind and the body works together. So Mohanji, who's my guru as well, he spoke about the actual frequencies, the actual emotions that we absorb from violent food. And of course, this affects, when animals have the sixth sense, and the food that we're eating, when they get slaughtered, they already release toxins into the food, and the fear and the pain and the agony and the anxiety, this gets released into their flesh and bone. And at the time when this murderous activity is being committed, you are eating this meat. So I mean, in terms of compassion, we are all connected by energy. We are all here to live in harmony with our planet. We're not here to ravage and take and take and take. We are actually by nature compassionate beings. our conditioning has made us to hate, to commit violent acts, to all those atrocities that's happening in the world. It's just purely conditioning and separation. We are beings of unity and in diversity. So if we can show love and respect our fellow species for our benefit, for the benefit of our planet, for the benefit of everyone, not just being selfish. This is where compassion comes in. It's not a selfish activity. It's actually, I agree with George, it's an injustice as well, because people need to understand it from that point of view. And as a natural being, it feels so difficult when you have hatred. It's not an easy emotion to have anger, to support violence. It's grinding, it weighs you down a lot. We are naturally light beings. And when we see the same energy in all the other beings, the same soul and the same source energy, we actually feel compassion for what's happening to them. And then we can take due action in terms of how we love and be true to our conscience. So I would really like to touch, I agree with George as well on that matter, both ways.
Lovely. Okay. So,
I can add something to that, actually. So I feel that, personally, the stance on veganism is pretty clear. It is a social justice movement. Of course, that is by definition. I feel we need more integration of people who are spreading veganism. So I honestly feel a lot of times the movement itself very divided. And there is a lot of lack of compassion within people, because it becomes a very myopic view, that you just my way or the highway. And so we need to keep reiterating the fact that, hey, eventually the goal is veganism. It's okay not to be a flexitarian, and just keep saying that no, it's an ethical movement, it's the social justice. And in Africa back in the day, Black people were sold as slaves. It was wrong. So we need to give examples for people to really understand and digest it. But I feel that, anybody, not just anybody, before being a vegan, before being a non-vegan, before being a girl or a man, first we are humans, And if we can see the humanity in everywhere, each and every one of us, then I think we can together do way more. But sometimes I feel that a lot of vegans just bickering amongst each other, and so a lot of support can be done, and then I feel that the results can be 10x or 100x. So for instance, here on this very platform, we have an activist, we have somebody else who's into from the health point of view, and we are doing everything we can, everything together, and still being very tolerant of each other's beliefs, and still being in love and compassion amongst each other. And by definition, veganism cannot change. I mean, it is an ethical movement in itself. There is no two ways about it. But we need to have more compassion in the way we support each other to spread. I think that is important. That will, just because it will make the effort 10x or 100x.
So what, according to you, Palak, is the biggest myth that people carry about vegans?
I think it's not just according to me. That vegans are mad. Vegans don't get enough nutrition.
Okay. And what about you, George? What's the biggest myth do you think people have about vegans?
Well, the protein myth. Eventually, everyone is concerned about protein. I mean, no one ever thinks about protein until you mention that you're vegan. Suddenly, they're a nutrition expert. And that we need meat to thrive and survive, which is completely false. So I think it's not a myth more than excuses. I think we should replace the word myth by excuses. So any excuse that pops up is just it's irrelevant. I mean.
Okay. So what's the excuse you heard, Samira? You heard any?
I really second Palak's and George's, the myth that's coming from their side. For me, I think the myth is veganism is just a diet, and it's not just a diet; it's a lifestyle. I have some challenges. I'm trying to get compostable packaging because for me it's not only about health. It's about our animals, yes, and it's about our planet. So whatever goes out from pure jovial is good for our planet. So veganism is not just a diet. In actual fact, my vision for the future is that we won't even be needing to use the word veganism, and it will just be purely how we should be. You know, it's life to be compassionate. It's life to care about our home. It's life to be loving to our animals. And by then, the word veganism will not even be. We'll be like, why did we even need to, promote or not promote, educate about veganism, because this is our true nature. So it's a lifestyle. And, the second myth, PT, I have is that it's just for religious people. And this is what we're facing now. It's, if you meditate or, but again, it's a lifestyle. And the other one, which I'm trying to get right on this side, is the taste. And this is the perception that people have that plant-based food doesn't taste good. So that is something that we are getting right. In actual fact, I've got a whole range of desserts that can actually heal you. Chocolate, and you don't have to feel guilty. You can have it for breakfast, and you don't have to feel guilty. No planet's harmed, the earth is not harmed, and you are not harmed. So this is one myth that we're trying to debunk.
The most interesting thing that people ask me is, what about the plants? That's the question. I mean, I don't know if you guys have got that question.
Plants have feelings.
Poor plant you're eating. So, I mean, it's of course, just to put it in perspective, they are not sentient. I mean, most of the plants, we're talking about sentient beings who has feelings, who has emotions, and, and that's, we're talking about that. But
this is pure hypocrisy. This is pure hypocrisy when they bring out the plants have feeling arguments or excuse.
Yes.
It's pure hypocrisy, and usually, the answer for those people is very simple. Don't they eat greens as well? They do eat greens as well, and the quantity of greens that the animal should eat in order for them to have a piece of steak is much higher than the amount of greens that we eat. So if they are plant rights activists, they should be vegan by default.
True.
Yeah, if anybody wants to eat a plant, see, whenever I asked this to Mohanji once, back in the day when I went vegan, one of the first questions is this also, that but plants respond to light and sound, and that's been proven. So what about that? He said that when a fruit or a vegetable falls off from a tree, it's like chipping off a nail. It does not even affect the plant. In fact, it is meant to fall off so that the seeds can go across and recreate life. So it is ironic that this question is even arising. Really.
That's, I think, almost like a funny question. So have you guys had any funny questions asked to you as a vegan?
Well, we always have if we ever got stranded on a desert island with an animal, what would we do? Usually I ask them if they are interested to come with me, so we'll have company together.
That was funny. Yeah, we've got a lot of thumbs up happening for that one. Yeah, but it was interesting. So, the three of you all also run vegan businesses. So, is there any difference between running a normal business vis-a-vis a business which has veganism as one of its core? Is there any difference at all? And what's unique about a vegan startup or startups which has veganism in its root, whether it is, the social thing that you do with the Lebanese vegan, or the hospital where you're trying to promote plant-based food, as well as what Samira is doing or Palak's doing. They all have, I mean, we also have the same setups in the general field, and this is dedicated to compassion and plant-based food. So what exactly do you see as the difference? Is there any difference at all? Yes, George. Start with you.
Well, first of all, you have the opposition of the mentality. So whether it's a hospital or any kind of other businesses, your approach is different than what the people are used to. So whenever you come and try to bring something new, anyway, change is not always accepted by people. They are always happy in their comfort zone. So when you try to shake their comfort zone, this is when things get a bit messy. So of course, the challenges of any vegan business is try to educate people on why we have this approach and the benefit of undergoing this lifestyle, whether it's for their health, if at the hospital. I mean, I'm promoting a plant-based diet for them not to come again and visit me anytime soon. So it's their decision to either take it or not. If they want to visit me again, well, they're most welcome. But I prefer not to have them, and I prefer to have a healthy population, because, as you know, our population is dying from all kinds of diseases, and the latest episode is COVID-19, which is a zoonotic disease, and if we, according to the CDC. 3 out of 4 infectious viral diseases come from animal. So 75% of all those pandemics come from animals. So this is the latest episode. We try to educate them, we and other vegan startups, that there's another way of living, another way of dealing with each other, with our fellow earthlings. Try to tell them that, well, animals are here, we are sharing this planet together. They're not here for us, they are here with us. And in order for us and for our future generations, our children, if we want to have a healthy planet, a peaceful communication between countries and culture, we should all undergo a peaceful way of living, which doesn't include slaughtering and slitting throats. At least this is the first step for humanity to regain herself and to regain really the values of humanity, which is, of course, compassion and justice to all, in order for us to expect maybe a lesser cruel and violent world altogether.
Very well said, yes. So what about Palak and Samira? I mean, what do you all see as the key difference or the differentiator between running a normal business vis-a-vis a vegan business?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you from a business standpoint and that purely business perspective, when we started out as a startup, I was very clear that I don't want to start an NGO and I want to make it a company, only because the perception of the people, we want to make this more mainstream. And we don't want to, there are some really great NGOs in India already. So I said, hey, let's start something where people, and the way other businesses work, they can bring in ethics, because that is also very important. But at the same time, now when we started meeting investors or people or brands who are not from the ethical side so much, there is a lot of greed which takes over the purpose and the mission of any organization. This essentially is social entrepreneurship, and we need to accept that and even embrace it, right? So I came to a point where I think in the beginning, I remember it's only grown in India, at least since the last 2 years. It's become more popular and more acceptable. Back 4 years back, it was a different story, or 5 years back. But anyway, even within the last 2 years, I remember one investor coming up to me and saying, hey, you know what, we should definitely spread veganism. Vegan is a very small niche. Let's call it health first. Let's change the name. Let's not create blocks into or not, let's not restrict it. And I said, no way. For it does not matter if veganism cannot stop, right? So if it does not, our aim was to spread awareness, which we will continue growing. If it makes business sense or not, that has never really been the mission. And if it can get integrated, then good enough. If it can't, we'll find out a way to support it. But that I think any social entrepreneurship, the why, the purpose to do that in the first place, that needs to be very, very clear. And if that is clear, then you won't stop talking about it and keep integrating it into business. And now it's very different. Now the same people who were asking us to compromise on our ethos are actually approaching us to help spread it and educate more people. So it is very much possible. And a lot of people come, and I consult other startups as well, and they ask me, hey, should we use the word vegan, should we not? My purpose is, my one question to them is always that, what is your purpose? Why are you starting a company? What do you stand for? Do you stand for veganism? Do you stand for, say, I want to come up with chocolate bars, but I want to promote health and nutrition? Great. But if I'm coming up with a platform and it is, I'm primarily want to spread the word vegan and make that mainstream, that is my purpose. So whether it makes, when we started, we said the market does not exist, we'll create it. And that comes at a cost. Business wise, that comes at a cost. That also means that people and competitors can quickly look at what you're doing, replicate it, and all your hard work of 4 years. It's all okay, because if if you're inspired by a cause, then more inspiration always comes. So I've literally seen the table turn around, and the same people who were criticizing us are the same people who are coming just because we have the same name. So I think that if you are running a business and you have your why very clear with it, don't worry about other market factors. You just stay put, and things should fall into place sooner or later.
I agree with Palakvi. It's mainly about purpose. I just would like to add as well, because I was faced, in South Africa, we have a bit of an issue with packaging. And although you get health companies, but they're not going the full yard. It's in plastic, it's toxic. They just want to promote health, and I'm not against those companies. I think they're just not aware of the entire vision. But on our side here, we basically getting the vegan part in, and the humane part, and the packaging. So even if it's a little bit costly for us in terms of a business, how to operate a business, I'm willing to take that risk, because there is a purpose behind it. It's not just about nutrition, like I mentioned earlier. It's actually a broader vision, and the costs go up a little bit, but there is a purpose behind that packaging. And as we increase our awareness. We've just started. So as economies of scale comes in, we'll be able to create more scalability and hopefully work with the suppliers, and, as technology improves, we'll be able to get this more out to many more people. So as a business, I'm willing to absorb that extra cost for purpose.
I understand. Basically, purpose is what sets us apart, and also not to, we can't, because we're also passionate when you have a startup or a company which has a goal, or which has veganism as a goal, then you don't compromise. And that means sometimes profitability can be an issue. And, what's good for what's good for the customer also includes what's good for the world and the people. And that kind of might be a little costly, but then we are committed to it, I think.
Yeah, I see that. So I've seen a lot of times, when we have a purpose-oriented business or a vegan business, and your aim is especially to help a particular sector grow, you're fine to cut down your cost when needed, even by 3x or 4x, just so that that thing can grow more. So So those choices, if I used to sell art before this. I was as an artist, and I remember at one point in time, I was very clear that, hey, I can't sell this painting below this. It's just not me. But with Vegan First, I've never had to say that. Like, it's like, I don't know. It's very difficult to say no, because you know that at the end of the day, you're saving animal lives, and that's the only thing which matters. So you're not even doing it for them, for the brand. Eventually, it's like, I don't think I can live with that.
I know the feeling. Yes.
Thank you.
I mean, can you believe it? We're already past 1 hour. I mean, it just feels like I've started speaking to you all, and time's just flying. I think. I mean, I would love to meet you guys again, but just before we kind of wind down, and one last question: what do you see, as the future of veganism, especially post, COVID and this whole pandemic happening? What do you see as the future for us? Quickly, we'll have this one question before we wind down. George, you go first.
Okay, thank you. Well, I first that veganism and having a vegan world, I don't want to sound too optimistic, but I think that we're heading into a vegan world. Not just because people might be compassionate or whatever, for the very simple reason, if we don't go all vegan, we would need a second planet Earth in order to feed everyone. So the population is growing, the resources are limited, and whether people like it or not, eventually we're gonna have a time where we will all be obliged to adopt like a plant-based diet, because feeding people animal is not sustainable. Our resources are depleted. We have a water problem, a land problem. Just last year, we had an Amazon rainforest fires, and this is not innocent. Farmers were clearing land in order for them to plant crops and to feed the livestock. So having a carnist diet is not sustainable for the planet and for our Earth. We spent billions and billions of dollars to go outer space and to search for another planet Earth where we can live on, instead of focusing on our own planet Earth and taking care of her, and try to leave this planet to our children in the best shape possible.
Lovely. Okay. Palak.
At the moment, at least, I think COVID has scared people enough to, choose plant-based. I don't know about the future so much, but we've seen more traction than, double or triple the traction in the last just 3 months post-COVID. But it's essential that we use this opportunity and, create more awareness so that people don't forget. But yeah, like George said, I do feel that nature is now not going to listen. So it's not COVID, another pandemic. If not that, then we'll be not resistant to antibiotics anymore. Something or the other will keep coming to wake us up in all ways.
I agree, Palak. If we keep doing the same thing that we are doing now, planet Earth, our bodies, and all the circumstances will repeat itself. So if we don't change what we're doing now, definitely COVID was a big wake-up call for everyone. So I hope it really made it, sparked the light bulb in some of our human civilians' lives, and hopefully the team across the world can, just spark more light wherever you guys are, and see how we can take it from there. Yeah.
One of the things that which really struck me was when all of us were in pandemic and lockdown. At least in India, it was a complete lockdown for the last few months. You could hear so many birds outside. You could hear the animals. The dogs were all around. We could hear the cats were moving freely. The animals were having what we generally do, and we were all stuck in our own homes, caged up. So it was almost like a role reversal. It was like I felt it was like nature's way of telling us, this is what you're doing. To people, to beings who can't just because you can. And if you do this, there will be a time when the same is meted out to you. That's what I felt. And I think many of us, I guess every one of us would resonate, especially the activists and those who are vegans would resonate with this, because apart from us as a species, all other species were absolutely okay in this pandemic, except the human beings, you know. So that's what it was. So, I mean, on behalf of the Early Birds Club, I am really honored to not only, you know, have this interesting discussion with you all, but also to, I think Samira and Palak are part of the Early Birds Club, and I think Chris also spoke to George, and he very kindly agreed to be an honorary member. George, I'm just going to share the certificate so that you could. I mean, it's an honor for us that you are part of our club. Can you see this? Just a second. Can you see this, George? This is the certificate that we would like to present to you on behalf of the EBC, you know, honoring your and giving you an honorary membership. We'll make sure that we will send it across to you. Just wanted to share it with you. You're muted. You're muted. I can't hear you.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I was just saying that I'm really happy and honored to receive the certificate. And I was really extremely happy to meet you all in person, such wonderful and passionate people. It was really a nice conversation we had all together. And I truly believe that hand in hand, we can achieve a lot.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Palak. Thank you, Samira. Thank you, Georges. Thank you, everyone from the EBC
Thank
Club.
you, likewise.
For seeing us on Zoom as well as on Facebook. I think as a, you know, the question I'd like to leave, leave each of us with is, I think it's high time we actually look at things as a race, look at things more objectively and look at it a little more sensitively. And, compassion is the need of the hour. And I think people like George, Palak, Samira, and many more like them come together and inspire the club, inspire the future generation, inspire the citizens, so that we can come together. And as Samira beautifully put it, I think there is only one world, and that world is compassion. That world is a vegan world, and vegan is no longer the kind of a sect which we're talking about. It's more, that's the way of life. That's the only way of life. Because I see, and as George said, justice, speaking up, is important. Yes, George, I would like to hear from
you. If you may, I would like to add one last idea.
Yes.
Like an advice to everyone who is considering going vegan. First of all, this person should gather a lot of information. I mean, it's excellent. We have Lebanese vegans, we have Vegan First and everything. Let him gather all the information and let him do his own research on the matter, whether it's on the ethical aspect of it, whether it's the health aspect of undergoing a plant-based, or for our environment. This person should, before going into a veganism, because it's very simple. If this person is not ready mentally and with the information that he gathered, he will eventually go back to eating animals. So before going into this transition, let everyone do his own research on this matter, and let it be mainly about ethics, because if it's for like health, maybe one day this person will wake up, he will feel like sick, he will go to a doctor, a carnivore doctor. He will inform him that he's feeling sick and he's not eating meat, and this doctor will blame the person because he didn't eat the meat, and he will go back to eating meat again. Whether if this person went vegan for ethics and for moral reasons, it's for a lifetime, because he will be convinced that killing is wrong yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So this is something that the person should know before going vegan. And another thing that this person should know is that going vegan has nothing to do with being famous or being liked. Actually, it's the contrary. You will be losing friends.
Yes.
Maybe you're going to be losing some member of your family who will be completely opposed to that. You should be ready, and this person should be ready to confront all those obstacles that he will eventually be faced with. And that's it, mainly.
Thank you. Very well put and well summarized. Palak and Samira, parting words before we say bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm really inspired by all three of you. In fact, Preeti, count yourself in that category of an active change maker. So thanks a lot, Georges. It was really heartening to hear about your journey, and to Samira. This was lovely.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Please subscribe.
I also just like to say, and I just also would like to say it's so wonderful to be speaking to some like-minded people who are on the same vision and mission, and I really hope that you guys succeed in your various areas, and it was such an honor to be here, and I hope this can help a lot of people who are watching. Thank you, Preeti, for having us.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Lovely meeting you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.